Welcome to my Chicago apartment tour. Is this working? Yes. So starting off here, we are in the entry, pretty small as you can see. This right here, just a coat closet, and I am just using it really, I mean, I have one coat in there, and if I had a guest, I would use it, but typically it's just being used as a utility closet. And then this here, this is my favorite decor piece that I have. My sister-in-law gave this to me. She made it. She thrifted the art and the frame, and then she painted the hot pink letters on it. And then just a plain shoe rack down here. Oh, hello, there you are. And then we go into the kitchen. So I wanted to try to show you the full kitchen here. I'll move you a little bit closer, hopefully, so you can see a little better. But I wanted to kind of jump into a little bit more, let's see. Okay, yeah, you can see fairly well now. So I wanted to jump into a little bit more details about the apartment. So I live in a high-rise downtown, like West Loop, Fulton Market area. My apartment is just over $2,800 a month. So like $2,800 and some change. I wanna say it's like 850-ish square feet. It's like 848 or something like that. It's a one bedroom, one bathroom. Just a couple sort of details I wanted to add as well for context. So yes, this rent is insane. I will go ahead and say that. If you want to comment that, you certainly can, but it's downtown in a big city, so the rent is crazy. This building was built or opened, I think, in like 2013, so about 12 years old, and it is still nice, still new, but there's a lot of newer buildings right around here. So I lived in another building in this area before, and that rent in that building is actually really similar to this one now, and that other building is even older. So it's like not quite as modern with the air conditioning and stuff like that. It doesn't have a pool, has a gym, but smaller than the gym in this building. So basically the amenities and features in that other building are not quite as good, but the rent is similar. The units in this one are bigger than that other building. And then other buildings that have grown up around this one in the last few years are much more expensive than this. So I mentioned this apartment's about 850 square feet, and the building next door, the one bedrooms were more like 560 to 600 square feet, I think, and the rent was way more. So honestly, I feel like this building is a good value, even though the rent is crazy. For this area and for the size apartment, everything like that, I think that is a pretty decent price to be paying in this area in Chicago. So I just wanted to call that out, and then obviously I'll show you around the rest of the apartment, and I'll talk a little bit about pros and cons as I go. So while we're in here, you can go ahead and see one of the things I really don't like in here, which is this black countertop. It's hard to point in this thing, but you can see the black countertop. It is very difficult to keep clean, and I did clean up for you guys, okay? I mean, you are guests in my home, so I did clean up for you, but it's really hard to keep clean. I actually did my cleaning for this yesterday, and I had to go through and do touch-ups, like on the counters particularly, and the floors too, so you'll see a little bit better in the next room. But the floors, I think they have like specks of maybe paint or something like that on them too, because it's like no matter how much I vacuum, I just can't get them looking completely clean. But yeah, it's like all these dark features in here. I don't mind the look of them, I don't really care, but they are really hard to keep clean. So yeah, kitchen, you can see really good size space. For a one bedroom apartment, this is the biggest kitchen I've had in any apartment I've lived in Chicago, including ones where I had roommates where, you know, it was 2 or 3 bedrooms. So lots of cabinet space. This is a realistic apartment tour, so I'll tell you, you know, I don't know how well you can see in here, but I did just throw a lot of things in the cabinets, and just want to say that, like, in these types of apartment tours and things like that, obviously, like I said, I did clean up for you guys. I had to like really try to keep my space clean today. And like I said, had to do some touch-ups again before filming this video because I wanted things to look clean and nice. And it's hard for me to personally live that way. Like I can't live in a home where I feel like I can't mess anything up all the time. Not that this apartment is perfect anyway by any means, but like I shoved a lot of things in cabinets. I've been trying to really be careful to keep everything clean, especially if you use your kitchen, and it's just hard. So I just feel like that's worth saying because it's easy to compare ourselves online and think we see other people with like beautiful, clean, perfect homes. And I don't think most of us do. So just wanted to add that too. And then wanted you to be able to see that the lighting's not going to be amazing, but that's the side I was on before. So there is a little island here going into the kitchen and just like a little cabinet, and like I use it as a dish drying area. So that's what this other side of the kitchen is. Dishwasher, sink, like a little bit more cabinet space, top and bottom, and that is that. While we're still in the kitchen too, I wanted to show you the thermostat to give you context of where it is. It's like over here in this corner. I wanted to talk about this quickly too. It's like just another weird thing about this apartment, and I had kind of a weird thermostat in my last apartment here too. So I'll show you again so you can see what I'm talking about. There's not an on-off switch. You have to have the air on here. Like there's not, I can't just turn my AC/heat off, which is kind of annoying because sometimes I don't want the air conditioning coming on constantly, or like in the winter, I don't like having my heat come on during the night, for example. Like I don't want to be hot while I'm sleeping. And so it's kind of weird, like you have to game the thermostat. I turn it down too low in the winter before I go to bed, the air conditioning will come on, which like obviously I'm not trying to have the air conditioning come on in December. And then it's the same like with this right now. Usually I turn the AC down a little bit more at night, like when I'm going to sleep, but then during the day, you know, I don't want it to be freezing in here. So I'll turn it up a little bit more, but it's like if you turn it up too much too quickly, the heat will come on. And I don't want the heat coming on in June. So it's like, it's kind of just like a weird system. Like you can't put it on heat or cool, and you can't turn it off. So obviously that's a very like nitpicky thing. I would rather have, you know, something, but it's just like a weird quirky thing about this apartment that like is annoying. And in my last apartment it was different, but it was just like you could turn on heat or air, but it was just on or off. Like you couldn't set it to a temperature. That was just something else I wanted to talk about that's just like been quirky with apartments since I've lived here. And like I said, this apartment is better than I've had before, but it's still like very strange, especially because this building is only 12 years old. I'm like, why did they do that? So anyway, I wanted to just show the bathroom here before we move on to the living room. So pretty standard bathroom. Honestly, decent storage though, a lot better than like, I think in my last apartment, I didn't even have drawers. So pretty good storage, and you know, just like a combo tub shower situation. So that is the bathroom. And then right next to it is, this is my laundry. So just in a little closet in this kind of entry hallway here. And stacked washer dryer. Super standard in like every apartment I've lived in Chicago. And did want to just point out one thing that is great in Chicago is a lot of these buildings are a little on the newer side, and even the ones that aren't, I feel like they have put laundry in. So I know in a lot of big cities like New York, for example, it's really rare to have any in-unit washer and dryer. And there are some buildings like that here, but every single building I have lived in here had a washer dryer. So I think that was like one of the things I remember when I moved to Chicago that I thought was so great was, you know, Chicago is like, I think the third biggest city in the US. And the rent is crazy, but compared to like a lot of the cities in the Northeast or cities in California, honestly, like the rent prices are not crazy. And you have, you know, decent space, stuff like a unit washer, dryer, things like that that are really great. So, all right. So we are in the living room now. Hopefully I didn't screw myself up too much with the light. It's like sunny out, but the sun kind of keeps going behind the clouds. So I had hoped that it was going to be beautiful sunset afternoon light, but doesn't look like we're getting that. But anyway, this is the living room. So I'm going to show you from the other side too, so you can kind of see the windows and everything better, because the windows are the best part of this room. But yeah, honestly, decent sized living room, not huge, but pretty good size. I have enough space. You're sitting on my desk right now. So enough space for a desk, couch, chair. This area right here, I think technically is supposed to be a dining room. And I'm just using it for an extra chair here because it's just me and I don't do a ton of entertaining. So I don't really need that. And I thought about getting some bar stools here, but I just never have. And now I'm moving out in a few months and getting rid of a lot of my stuff. So I probably won't do that, but you could put bar stools there too if you wanted to have like a better dining area. So this is my couch. It's my favorite piece of furniture, and I'll try to move you also so you can see it better. This is not the easiest thing for you to be able to see every angle well, but it's kind of dark, but yeah. So I have this sort of like burgundy colored couch. I was not sure how I would feel about it when I got it because I've never had a couch that wasn't like a neutral color. But I think it's beautiful and I love it. It makes the room feel very cozy to me, and it's medium on the comfort scale, but it is gorgeous in my opinion. And then let me put you over here. So I'm going to be very dark because of the backlit. That's why I didn't put you there before. But this way you can see better. Obviously, this living room has beautiful, huge windows. In fact, I actually usually have to keep these blinds closed because it's honestly too much light. This, I can never point here. This door goes out to the balcony. And then on the way to the bedroom, I wanted to show you two things. So the first one is this lamp, which like I love so much. I think it is so cute. It's from Anthropology and I'm obsessed with it, but look at this horrible cord. What do I do with that? Somebody please give me a suggestion. There is an outlet like right there behind the bookshelf, and I could put it like maybe on this table, but I kind of like having it on the counter. It's just like this cord is awful and I don't know what to do with it. It just looks horrible. So somebody tell me what I should do. All right, and then this is my bookshelf with books that half of them I haven't read. All right, and then finally, the bedroom. And obviously the best part is the windows, and we got the light back and we're getting close to sunset and it is just absolutely beautiful. And then this is the bedroom. So I just kind of showed you what it looks like walking in. Obviously this light is a little better coming this way for me to talk to you. And sorry about the different cameras and the different mics. Hopefully when I'm editing this, the audio is like not too weird and too different, but I wanted to use this camera so you could kind of see like the whole room and set it up on the tripod. But I did find once I got started, it was a little bit difficult kind of like moving this around and showing you close up on certain things. So I tried to use the other camera to do that. So sorry if it was a little disjointed with audio or the camera stuff. I'm doing my best. I'm still still learning with all this. But yeah, so this is the bedroom. You can see over here, like this is, I'm so bad at pointing. This is the entryway. There's like kind of a little hallway. Front door is like basically right in front of that. And then this over here is my closet. So I'll show you that a little bit too. But this is sort of the whole thing. If I show you that, you can see I have kind of like a little, there's like a little ledge here by the window, night table. Let me see if I can show you from this corner too. So that's sort of what it looks like from this side. Sorry if this is weird. Okay, yeah, and then that hopefully helps you see this corner over here with the TV and everything. But yeah, so the windows in here are absolutely beautiful. Honestly, like, I almost feel like the windows in here are better than the living room because the living room is sort of set up weird, which I didn't really talk about when we were in there, but you will have seen, and maybe I can kind of like put up on the screen here while I'm talking, but the couch can really only go on that wall with the windows because the TV can really only go on this wall that is like the interior wall. You couldn't put the TV on the window side, which means, you know, your back is like facing the view when you're sitting in there. So it's really not that ideal. And it's also like there's, especially this time of year when it gets light so much later, not complaining about having the light in the evenings, but it's just there's a lot of glare on the TV and stuff like that. And so if you want to like watch TV after dinner or something, I usually end up coming in here anyway, because this TV is like in a corner on a wall. So I can not only enjoy the view of like these like beautiful corner windows in here, but I can also actually see the TV. So I actually hang out in here a lot in the evenings, like after I eat and stuff like that. This bedroom is amazing. I think this bedroom, I mean, the windows in this whole apartment are beautiful and there are nice views, but this bedroom is lovely and I love spending time in here. Other things I wanted to talk about, let me grab my phone actually, because there was, I made a list of a few things. Other things that I wanted to talk about, and obviously if you have questions about, I don't really want to share like which building I live in just for, you know, safety and privacy and security reasons. But if you have questions about, like I said, I've lived in a couple buildings in this area. So if you have any questions about West Loop or Fulton Market, living in Chicago in general, I have lived in 2 other neighborhoods here. So I don't know every neighborhood, but I have lived in Chicago for like 10 years. So if you have questions about this particular area, or, you know, kind of what you can expect to find in Chicago, like definitely let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Anyway, other than that, yeah, so a couple other things I wanted to mention. So like I said, this apartment is expensive. And so I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about myself and how I ended up here. So I'm 36. This definitely was not my first apartment by myself. I lived in Georgia before, so obviously I could afford a little bit more there than here. But here for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 years I lived here, I had roommates. So I lived in a couple different apartments, one with 3 roommates, or 3 total, me and 2 people, and then one with just 1 other roommate. And then I lived in another building here for like 6 years. That was what they call a junior 1-bedroom or a convertible. So it's like a studio that has sort of like a alcove for the bed, basically. That was sort of like my first apartment by myself here in Chicago. I loved that apartment. It was great for me. That was also pre-COVID though. And so it was great when I was going into an office, but not as great when I started working from home full time. So this place has been a lot better for that because I do have a separate bedroom. So I have more separation between like my office space and bedroom space and whatever. That being said, I did actually leave my job last month, which I made some videos about that if you're interested in, like, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I don't make any money doing this. My channel is not big enough to make money doing this. So I'm not a YouTuber. I'm like, I saved money for a while to take some time off and do some travel, but I talked more about that in another video if you're interested. So I'm not working at the moment, but I was working at a software company before. That's how I was able to afford the space. You know, I'm always curious, especially if an apartment is expensive, like a lot more than this. I'm curious what people do for a living and everything. So wanted to mention that. A couple other things about this building. This is pretty typical of buildings like this in this area. There's usually like a fixed utility cost. In this case, I think it's $150 a month on top of your rent. And that covers like gas. And so that's gas like for your stove, for the oven, for your, it's like gas heat for the unit, but it's also gas heat for like the dryer and gas heat for your water. So that's all included in that. Your water, trash, recycling, that's all included. TV and internet is included in that. Another thing I'll just mention is maintenance. Obviously, like if you're renting from a landlord, theoretically they should be covering all your maintenance stuff too. But the nice thing about living in a building like this is they're coming quickly. Like if I put in a maintenance request, they're here within an hour or two. They have people on staff that are here all the time. So for me, being a female and living by myself, you know, I know these buildings don't have necessarily the most character and things like that, but I feel very safe because there's a 24-hour door person. There's really good security, I feel like, in this building. And the maintenance and everything is really good. So it's easy to live here, like as a single person by yourself and feel comfortable and like not stressed out. I do have a car now too, but I didn't used to have a car. I lived here for a very long time without having a car. And so this area is awesome because it's very walkable. It's easy to public transportation. It's easy to the grocery store. It's easy to anything, like it's close to my dentist. It's close to anything and everything that I want and need to do where you don't really need a car. So that's a cost savings too, in my opinion. Also, this building has a pool and a pretty good gym. So if you are good with that and you don't need to, you know, get a gym membership, things like that. So those are all things to consider that would potentially save you money, even though the rent may be a little bit more. So I think, you know, the location and the amenities and stuff can make a difference depending on your needs. Parking was another thing I wanted to talk about. I'm sure people may be curious about that from other places. So I lived in Atlanta as well, and the parking there was like $60 a month in a building I lived in Buckhead, but also in other areas like in the suburbs, you may not pay for parking at all. Whereas here, the parking's very expensive. So the parking in this building, it is like attached to the building, it's covered parking, it's secure, all those things, which is really wonderful and convenient. But it is $285 a month, so very expensive. And it's pretty similar in other buildings. My friend owns her condo and her boyfriend moved in with her, and so he had to rent a parking spot because she only owned one. And I think it was $300 a month for him. And in my old building, I want to say it was like $250 or $275 there too. So I think $250 to $300 is pretty standard in this area a month for parking. So that is very expensive. Like honestly, that bothers me more than expensive rent. Because I feel like with the apartment, I don't know, you're paying for the location and stuff like that. But with having a car, it's like kind of like, I don't know, you don't even really need one here. So it just feels crazy, but that's how much parking is. So I thought that might also be something people were curious about, like just what a parking situation is like here. Most of these high-rise buildings do have a parking garage, so it is very convenient. Just something to note, Chicago is fairly easy to drive in my opinion, and grocery stores and things like that, you don't have to pay for parking, and they usually have good lots that are like attached to the building and covered. So the driving here is not terrible. And I have friends in the suburbs and stuff like that. So it is nice to have a car. I never drive my car if I'm going, I don't know, to certain places in River North and things like that. Because I just personally don't want to park on the street. It's expensive. All the parking here everywhere is expensive. I'm already paying a lot for parking. So I try to only drive my car where there's a parking garage and the parking is like inexpensive or free, or I'm going to see a friend or something where I can park, you know, at their place. I just feel like it's not worth it otherwise. So let me know if you have any other questions about parking here, but just wanted to kind of call those things out. Cons in this unit, obviously price. I mentioned some of the finishes are just really hard to keep clean, which is just like a dumb thing in this particular unit. Some of them have been redone, and other buildings obviously will have different stuff. Noisy neighbors can be an issue. I'm not really having that be a problem, and I feel like I said these kind of newer-ish buildings, the soundproofingness is like pretty good. Like you might hear people in the hallway, but I don't usually hear people like in my actual apartment. And then I kind of talked through the pros. To me are like safety, security. High-rise buildings in Chicago in the summer do get a lot of spiders like on the building, but I haven't really had problems with spiders like getting in my apartment. So that's another thing too. Just, I'm not going to get too far into that because I've already been talking too long, but look up, you know, spiders on high rises in Chicago. All right. I think I'm tired of the sound of my own voice at this point, and I think I've covered all my notes. I think the only other thing there is left to do is show you the balcony. And, oh, you know what? The other thing I didn't show you was my closet. So let me show you that really quick. So that is my closet. It's like a nice walk-in situation. I'm not gonna really show you any closer because there is a little bit of a mess in there that I didn't get to cleaning up. But that really is everything now except for the balcony. So let me show you that. I hope you enjoyed getting to see my apartment, learning a little bit about apartments in Chicago, rent and all that stuff. And like I said, please let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to try to answer anything else that I didn't cover. And yeah, thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like because it really does help my videos reach other awesome people like you. And if you want to see more videos about living in Chicago or living alone, and later this year it'll be some traveling, if you're interested in any of that, consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye.